Welcome to Budget Outlaws. I've almost finished up the turbo system, and that's going well. I think it's going to work out well. So we'll see. We've got some things to deal with there, but something's come up along the way. So I was changing the oil, and I pulled the plug out, and the magnetic part of the plug had bits of metal on it, and that's never good. So I looked at it real close, trying to figure out where they came from. And there really isn't any parts in this engine that would cause that bit of that. There were like halves of a washer, and there was actually 4 halves plus some extra bits. So I'm not sure what all that came from, whether something was dropped in the engine. I mean, I've been guilty of doing stupid things in my life, and so this video will surely pull that one out. I decided to drop the oil pan and see if there's something in there, and there really wasn't. I mean, there was just like the little bits of what was left of those other washers and nothing else. I mean, it was just dirty oil, which is the reason I was changing it. So I went ahead and dropped it. Well, I took a good look at it and tried to analyze it, cut open the oil filter, trying to see if there was, bits of stuff in there, and there wasn't. So now it goes back to my problems that I was having last year, that occasionally there would be water coming out of one of the banks. And wasn't sure why that was happening. So I decided to go ahead and do the head gaskets. So anyways, I pull the heads off, and I can't see anything. It looks fine. However, I noticed that on one of the cylinders, the port was washed clean. So I started thinking, well, there might be a crack in the head or the block. But I didn't see anything. And after pulling the head off and putting it on the bench, I noticed that the intake side was washed. So in other words, the piston, the exhaust port, and the intake port on the head was washed. And so that led me to think that it's a stuck injector. And I still think that's what that is. But it doesn't solve the water coming out. And when we did the turbo startup with the different exhaust sounds, that was just, I think, the last video. But anyways, there was water coming out, and you first think, oh, it's just condensation, but there was a lot of water coming out. So anyways, I was fine with changing the heads, and then I started thinking, well, maybe I need to get a straight edge on it. And I need to quit thinking, because at the same time I was thinking, well, one of the things that I've been wanting to do was to gap the rings so that I could run the boost and not worry about having the rings heat up and come together and cause all kinds of problems. So I decided to pull the pistons and to gap the rings. So the block's still in the car. I'm doing this all in the car, which it works fine. I mean, it's a little tight to pull the heads off of there, but other than that, it works. The only problem with pulling pistons is that you can't get to the top side to hold it when you're underneath on the rack. So I came up with this grandiose idea that I was going to put a piece of cardboard in there and snake it in there, and then it was going to catch the pistons. And it did. It caught them. Seemed to work fine. Well, I got through the 3rd piston, and after each piston I would bump the starter because I couldn't get to the bolt on the front of the crank. Well, you can see where this is going. After the 3rd pistons, I bumped the starter and it didn't move. It just, made a noise and stopped. And I thought, well, the battery's dead. I have some problems with that. And I looked and I reached up and I touched all of the lifters and the rods that were still kind of hanging down because I didn't push them all the way out. I know what you guys are thinking. Well, I went over, I lowered it down, I pulled those 3 pistons out, and I put them on the bench. I pulled a set of rings out, and I started playing with those a little bit. And I went to the next piston, and I picked it up, and I heard this ting sound. One of the ring lands is broken. Lands on the floor, and oh my gosh, this is going to be expensive. My stupid mistakes. So I started measuring to see what I was dealing with. I was told this was a 20 over cylinder block with 20 over pistons, of course. And so I started checking the bores, and I checked the pistons, and the numbers weren't really adding up. And I went online and I looked real hard, and I saw what a standard bore was going to be, and then the next size and the next size. And so I came back down, and I get all my fancy tools out. I'll show you those in this inset. And I'm checking the pistons, and I'm checking the ring or the cylinders, and they're fine. They're almost perfect for a standard bore. But yet I had the sneaky suspicion that maybe the surface of the heads was a little warped, and that's what was causing my water problem. So I made the decision to go ahead and pull the engine, which I was holding off because I really wanted to get some boost into it and just get a feel for it before I went to that ordeal. And it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. So Dan, my friend that owns the Jeep here, he came over and helped me pull it out, and I took the block down to the machine shop, and they said, okay, yeah, we'll check it out. And then they called me back and said it'd be a week before they could look at it. And I says, oh, come on now, you gotta just look at it. It's only 5 minutes. So he finally did. He looked at it, and he said it needs a 20 over bore. Well, that confirmed that indeed was a stock bore. It has little taper, really. I didn't think it needed to be bored. So I'm going to check it again here in a little bit. And then he said it needed to be cleaned up on the surface of the heads. So he says 5 thousandths on the surface, 20 thousandths on the bore, and hopefully nothing on the crank, because that thing's already turned. But I looked at the rod bearings, and they look good, so maybe just a polish and they'll be okay. So then I started thinking, well, I've got one piston that's bad. Can I find one piston? Well, these pistons were bought in 2005 or thereabouts, and they're Mauls, but they're good forged pistons. I hate to throw away 7 good ones. I'd be making some trophies or something with them. Anyways, I looked it up, and pistons weren't that bad. They're $600-700, and probably about $700 for a set of 8. But I still would have to get them bored, according to this machine shop. And so I'm still debating that portion of it. I'm in the process right now of pulling it down. I'm turning this ATI crank or the crank dampener is a little bit of an animal to get apart, but I got the bolt loose, and so I'll pull that off of there and get the crank out of there and make sure the mains are okay and all that. But that's kind of where we're at, and so what's to happen now? I missed the test and tune. I was really hoping to make the test and tune. That was last weekend, because that would give me a lot of time to run the car, tune on the tune, find out if it's going to be a minimum boost or if the wastegates weren't going to hold out, things like that. And well, that's just going to have to happen at the next run. Fortunately, I have about 5 weeks till the next Autocross, the season. Anyways, that's kind of where we're at right now. I'm really excited about the turbo. I'm really excited that I can now put low compression pistons in here, because right at this build was 11 to 3 calculation of the pistons, or the compression ratio. So I'm going to hope for about a 9.5 to 10, and that should keep me in the premium and E85, but still give me some decent low end. And we'll see how that goes. I think I should just go ahead and end it here and say thank you all for watching. I appreciate you staying this far for this boring video. Hey, it is what it is. This is what we deal with. And again, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And click the follow button so you can get notified. It's the bell. And have a great day. Bye.